morning again. Welcome to 20. I say again because your fake professor has been quite the hypocrite. I've been trying to start this video 3 times. This is the 3rd time. I'm trying to start this video, trying to express some of the internal struggles I've been going through concerning trying to be a YouTuber. But the more I try to express the inner workings and work them out to speak on them, the more muddled I'm becoming. So, I guess I have nothing to talk about. That's the way I tend to regard these things. So we're just gonna get to the reading. I really hated it because I really had a whole speech for you, but the speech didn't come out naturally. So, to the reading like we're supposed to do. One of the earliest learning experiences for a child, which has long-lasting emotional effects, is that a power outside of himself takes ultimate responsibility for his actions. If he reaches for a book on a shelf, and in so doing pulls down 50 others on top of himself, someone else appears on the scene to save him. If he puts out a hand to pick up a bright object on the counter in a shop, someone makes him put it down. Judged by the findings of Milgram's obedience to authority experiments, described fully in Chapter 6. Oh wow, we're going to go back and do some more Milgram? There's going to be shocks! I love the electric shocks! Anyway, it would seem that few people succeed in shaking free of the duty to obey authority figures and to think entirely for themselves. Parents, after all, are only the first in a chain of authority figures a child is subjected to. Society is based on authority figures. A child has to obey his school teacher if he wants to get on. The student has to obey the rules set by the examining authorities if he wants to get his degree. The adult has to obey his boss if he wants to keep or improve his job. Because, as Milgram said, obedience brings rewards in our daily structure, we come to expect someone to be in charge always. So, though a healthy parental attitude may equip a child to become confident, he may become confident of operating within the established system, and the system reinforces the idea that he is never totally responsible for his actions. There is always someone else above to influence things. Religion, after all, is based on such a concept. The convention of Deus ex machina, Deus ex machina, has long enjoyed a vogue in the theaters. Deus ex machina, the God in the machine, and it's stage direction where the thing that is supposed to happen to the characters on the stage, that thing is supposed to look natural. Deus ex machina. Final Destination. There you go. I love the modern day. Memes are great. Not only, perhaps because it perhaps because it eases the plot writer's task. It is comforting to believe that when the going gets too tough, the policeman or a good fairy or long-lasting uncle will turn up to resolve the sticky predicament. Satire's French is weird. Hugh Close, or No Exit, had such shock value at the time because it depicted the conflict of 3 people for whom there was no one outside of themselves to offer a resolution. The belief that one is not in control can act as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hinkle pointed out that people who feared in interrogation conditions that they could not hold out without sleep were the first to succumb to interrogation. methods after sleep loss. And people who thought that hypnosis must be impossible to resist were the first to reveal, all when hypnotized, as they felt they could not be held responsible for their actions. Like that. I'm hypnotized. I can do whatever I want. The willingness or will to abdicate personal responsibility inculcated in us from childhood learning that someone else is always in control is perhaps strengthened by the attractive illusion that irresponsibility means freedom. Merleau believes that it is fear of living, with all its inbuilt contradictions, that leads people to abdicate responsibility for their own lives. Fear of living. Oh, that's shocking. But that's something to take into consideration. Why we want somebody else to do it for us, so that we don't have to be responsible for it. Why do some children not grow up? This is the big thing. Gen X is all blah blah blah, pull yourself bootstraps, and now the kids are mad about that. Hey, we can't, it's too hard, expensive. I would just like to ask those people how much of that is actually fear of living. Given that you were not given tools, you were not given an education wherewith you could use your intelligence because they instructed you to think with knowledge. They emptied you out of all ability to have identity. And what these kids are going through today is simply being afraid to live, afraid to fail because failure might mean death, afraid of all the god-awful things we put in our hearts and our mind about it. Oh, about other people. I'd say this was take 3. I might actually be getting to those things I want to say that I wanted to say before. Who knows? It's frightening, isn't it? Let's reread this whole little paragraph one more time. The willingness to abdicate personal responsibility, inculcated in us from childhood learning that somebody else is always in control, is strengthened by the attractive illusion that irresponsibility means freedom, and that being prompt and what do you call that? What do they call that? Come on, Mike, you're losing your timing. Your audience has just clicked away. They hate you. Shush. Be patient with me. Irresponsibility. And rugged individualism means whiteness. Irresponsibility means freedom. But if you want to be responsible for yourself, you're white. Oh. Kids, please let us get over the brainwashing they've got going on today. It's utterly illogical. Alright? Okay. Merleau believes that it is fear of living, with all its inbuilt contradictions, that leads people to abdicate responsibility for their own lives. All the research findings show that those who seek to conform most, or who join rigid thinking organizations, are those who can least tolerate ambiguity. Oh! I said it right! Ambiguity. Oh, fuck. Ambiguity? Damn. Merleau, in Mental Seduction and Menticide, evocatively described the dilemma. Oh, there you go. Did you see what I just did there, children? I did what they called sounding it out. I didn't know the word. I knew it, but I didn't know it. So what did I do? I slowed down and said, evocatively? No. Evocatively. They used to teach that in school. But they don't teach you that anymore. You know what they teach you now? Sight reading. To recognize the words by how they look. They don't teach you how to read. Come on, Zingiers, Ayers, and whatever the fucks you are. Fix it. Every time we Gen Xers try to sit down and tell you to do your homework and read and do it right, you gave us goddamn hassle. Nah, I didn't want to do my homework. Do you know what most humans' worst, most traumatic time in their entire childhood is? Homework? Yeah, I can't tell you how many goddamn traumas occurred in my family over homework and over the struggle of trying to make you, the child, do your homework. Just get the fucking thing done. Come on, let's play your brain. Yeah, I was a very frustrated, terrible mother. Why was I a terrible mother? What was my problem? What was my hang-up? Come on, kids, don't you like psychology? Come on, feed your brain. Get it? I couldn't lead a horse to water. I can't make you want to. All I want to do is get you to do your homework and learn. Not understanding that it's not an environment to learn. So what were we doing? We were getting homework done, thinking it's so you can learn, so that we can comply to the standard of the school, so the teacher can say, oh, I did my job well, this student turned in their homework. And somebody on the outside says, hey, do you know, for the last 3 generations, homework has been incredibly stressful to families. What with our changing society? Why don't we change that? No, don't you understand? That kind of childhood trauma, or the potential of such childhood trauma, is absolutely necessary to build Americans. Okay. Rambling time over. Living often seems beyond our power. Stepping out of a relatively safe, childish dependence into freedom and responsibility is both hazardous and dangerous. Living demands activity and spontaneity, trial and error, sleeping and reawakening, completion and cooperation, adaptation and reorientation. Living involves manifold relationships, each of which has thousands of implications and complications. Living takes us away from the dream of being protected and demands that we expose our weaknesses. Let me read that again. Living takes us away from the dream of being protected and demands that we expose our weaknesses and strengths daily to our fellow men, with all their hostilities as well as their affections. Holy shit. If I would have been able to get that speech I wanted to make earlier, it would have totally fit with today's reading. Living requires mutuality of giving and taking. Above all, to live is to love. Many people are afraid to take the responsibility of loving. If having an emotional investment in their fellow beings, or of having an emotional investment in their fellow beings. They want to only be loved and to be protected. They are afraid of being hurt and rejected. It is important for us to realize that emphasis on conformity and the fear of spontaneous living can have effect almost as devastating as a totalitarian's deliberate assault on the mind. Trained into conformity, the child may well grow up into an adult who welcomes with relief the authoritarian demands of a totalitarian leader. It is the welcome repetition of an old pattern that can be followed without investment of the new emotional energy. As Milgram observed after the obedience experiments, we, for the most part, cannot handle total autonomy. You know what? I still can't get that word right, no matter how well I sound it out. just gave you stupid advice again. You might as well burn me at the stake now. I'm sorry, I'm being very sarcastic today. Because I'm trying to convince myself that, look man, just because I didn't like that one doesn't mean they don't like you. In fact, there's not even enough. Oops. Shh. That's why we couldn't get recording earlier. As Milgram observed after the obedience experiments, we, for the most part, cannot handle total autonomy, damn it, nor total submission. Many psychoanalysts have noted that for most people, and for neurotic people most of all, it is difficult to be individual, and confession is one solution. Brown explains, there exists a fear of freedom, a selfhood, or of selfhood, which makes people want to submerge themselves in the mass, and confession is one of the means by which they can do so. For thereby, they lose those traits which cause them to feel separate. The other, of course, is to lose one's sense of personal identity by submerging it into the collective behavior of the crowd. Torg is convinced that the inability to accept ambiguity, but there's no you in there. English is hard to learn. In life is the precipitating factor on sudden conversions. But such conversions only appear sudden. However, the process leading up to them has been operating throughout life. Alright. Sometimes when I watch my video back after production, I realize sometimes I have read clearly, but I didn't understand. So if there is annoyance at my backtracking, fine, I'll try to curve my style. I'll just become more perfect at reading, and then we won't have to have this problem much more. Yeah. Okay. So basically, these sudden conversions are only apparently sudden. There's a process that has been going on throughout their life that has led to this conversion. Those processes are childhood indoctrination of ideas and socialization, which keep the child, and now adult, within a framework of experiences where those original ideas received least challenge. But eventually, he may have to acknowledge that there are shades of gray between the black and the white of his convictions. Talk says, the typical product of socialization in a person who has become incapable of accepting with equanimity the uncertainties and complexities of life. Instead, he has learned to impose the beliefs of his parents on his encounters with the world. These beliefs provide structure where there frequently is none, offer certainty where there's ambiguity. Oh, I did it wrong again. Why am I doing it wrong again? Is it because I'm having anxiety concerning getting it right? Not consciously, very subtle. Where do we start to identify with I can't read correctly? Is it in here? This subtle part where I'm like, I got it. And then I couldn't get it because I was trying to get it. And now I'm here judging myself over it. This is where my identity makes the decision. Ambiguity. Oh God, I'm so stupid I can't say it. Ambiguity. Get it? And why is it harder to learn and remember the proper pronunciation of that word? Because of the resistance. Because of the resistance I'm putting in my identity concerning my skill to read. But what happens when I achieve the proper pronunciation? That is when I'm trusting myself and just reading without judgment. I gotta write. You write on everything, don't you? That was too fucking funny. I don't even know why I did that. You see, this is why I don't explain things, kids. Have a good morning. We'll continue later. Good.